Hi everyone, it's your favorite button aficionado and collector of all things buttony, the Velvet Lounge Life. Thank you so much for tuning in for another Waterbury Button Company video. And yes, we're going to talk all things Waterbury Button Company. Sorry, that's what this is. If you hate buttons, this is not the video for you. And why would anyone hate buttons? Okay, so let's get into this pretty quickly. First of all, I've been collecting these buttons ever since I was a little button myself, and I adore them for many reasons that I discuss in several videos. I have several videos in this series because I simply wanted to have one place where you guys could go and identify whether you have any of these potentially valuable buttons. I have a lot of one-of-a-kind buttons, a lot of rare fashion buttons, custom-made design buttons, which were, like I said, one-of-a-kind. Someone would commission a design and the button company would make it for them, of course, at a pretty handsome fee. And that's why it's important for us to have a depository of information where we can go back and reliably, identify what we have. Buttons are considered to be very insignificant to the majority of the world. And that's pretty sad because buttons have a lot of history behind them. I will post a clip that I have here after this video that you can watch, and I will also post a link below, actually two links. One will be to a video that shows a button that's worth $5,000, a single button that the majority of the world, I would say 99.99% of the world, would overlook, worth $5,000, or it was appraised at that. I am also going to post a link to a playlist for all of the Waterbury Button Company buttons so that you can look at those videos, see if you have any of these buttons, and that way you can label and at least have some sort of information about them. Also, I will post a link to all of my button videos down below in the comments area. So without further ado, let's get going. And I have to send my little puppy off because she's making all sorts of little noises because she wants to go night-night. And I don't blame her, it's really late here. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay, that was quick. She was really cooperative. Yay, little Maya. So let's start with this. So I talked about in earlier videos the fact that the Waterbury Button Company made more than just buttons. They made a lot of things out of metal components. And of course, some of them were jewelry oriented, such as this. This is for a man's tie, or maybe a woman could put this on a scarf. And it has a pointy back so it could go easily through the material. It features what appears to be a eagle. It's so shiny that it's almost hard to show this. Let me see if I curve the paper. Does that help any? Not really. But I promise it has this eagle on it. Let me just try one thing. Let's see if that works. Oh, that's better. And so you can see that eagle, see its talons, its little chunky legs. Its wings are out prominently, and it appears to have a letter in the middle of the chest. What I see is a letter C, I believe. I don't have my loop, so I can't read that right now. On the back, it has the company's information. So obviously super easy to identify who made this. Yes, you can see that dome design, which is perfect for a tie pin. So I have a few of these tie pins. I have cuff links. I have several different things that they made. And I am very happy to be the caretaker of those and someone who could share them with people. So this is a very cool button. The design is absolutely stunning. I believe the instrument is Italian. It's a lyre, L-Y-R-E. And just look at like the details of that floating out of the enamel work. You can see all the little bits, even like the little stringing that would go up the center piece. This is about the size of a quarter, American quarter, of course. And of course, beautiful hallmarking on the back. You can see the shank style that they used for that. And that wonderful joining work. You could do a lot with this button. Absolutely stunning. I don't have a lot of them. They're very rare. I wish I had a bunch of them, but can't have all of the buttons. And what am I going to do with all of them? I'm going to give some of them away to you guys. You just have to help us get to 1,000 subscribers. And then when we also get to 2,225 subscribers, we're also going to have a really large mega haul of gifts that we're giving away. But at 1,000, I will be creating some button bundles and sending those out to some of our viewers. You just have to be a subscriber, leave comments on the video, and give us thumbs up as your entries. The more time you do that, the more entries you have. This one is this beautiful swirl design from the 1970s. Really cool. Probably went on a coat, I would assume. And I believe that that may have been from when the company was acquired, or actually it sold itself. We have to get to these two buttons next because super duper rare. So this one, let me make sure I hold it the right way. It would go like this, I believe, if you were to sew through. Yeah. I don't know what this means. I feel like this is a symbol that someone would identify, like they know what it is. And you can't see it in this light, but this is a super dark, dark blue, the enamel work. And then you can see, I don't know if that's like a hieroglyph of some sort, or if it's written in, you know, another language. I don't know what it means, but if you guys have any idea, please let me know in the comments down below, please. And you can see what the back of this one looks like. And that beautiful joining. And of course, you saw the shank. But yes, if you know what this means, please let me know. It might be something religious. I have no idea. We've had so many guesses, but you guys are so much smarter, I'm sure. And this beautiful domed button has this gorgeous, deeply engraved design on it of this wonderful flower, all of this scroll work with the leaves going around. Obviously, the black highlighting that was done. Just trying to see if I can, oh, there you go, that's better. And then you can see how it's joined, how the edges look, the back, the shank, pretty. That's sort of like timeless. And let's get to this one, which is one of my favorites. So as I stated in many other videos, commissions were part of the Waterbury Button Company's repertoire of work which is smart because they could custom make things easily because they had so many talented designers. So obviously you're looking at a baseball button. Beautiful stitch work that they put in there. Looks just like a baseball, has that tire back design on the back of the button, their classic shank. And if you do some research, you'll see that they made buttons for the Cubs and other baseball teams. Not a lot, but some. Fun. So let's look at something very American, the original Americans. The real Americans, some people would say. I kind of agree with that. And this is a parent situation where we have a large and small version of the same exact button. The only difference is, as I stated, the size. And yes, I've been gardening, so as usual, my hands look like trash. You'll have to forgive that, but you can see the wonderful design in this button, the details in the face, the emotion, the sadness, but the pride. And then this is what the backs, the backs are exactly the same, just like I said, different sizes. So I'm going to put the small one down. And something I noticed, this has a slight error in it because it's slightly off printed in the back. So when you're looking for buttons, looking for button errors is really cool. It's sort of like with coins and stamps. The more of an error you can find, the more value it can add to a button. Okay, so if you find every little scratch or tiny little dot, that doesn't really mean a lot. It has to be something that's very obvious, like this off printing, like where this is off center. And look at the shank on this one as well. Gorgeous. And also it's the saucer design, as I sometimes call it, because it's scooped in the back. And that's, you know, partially to help it lay flat on the clothes or the cloth. I don't know what these would have been used for, this American Indian design. If you have any idea, please let me know, because those are very interesting and I just like them. This is one that I like. It reminds me of like the 1950s feather hats that the ladies would wear, and I think the lady, what's her name? Katharine Hepburn, maybe? No. Who's the lady who was in Breakfast from Tiffany's? If you know her name, please post it down below. The movie Breakfast from Tiffany, the lady wears a hat, I believe, that's similar to this design of button. And it just reminds me of feathers in this beautiful fanned out circular design. And you could see like the depth of the cast as well as the details in the design all the way out to the edges. And this is what the back looks like. This is like, okay, yeah, I have 5,000 favorite buttons and this is one of them. So what is her name? She was Breakfast from Tiffany. I could see her. I don't remember what her name is. Oh, this one, some of you should recognize. Is it from the Scottish? I think it might be Scottish. No, the guy Tom Jones, Welsh. Okay, this is a Welsh design, and I'm hoping I can get a good picture of it in there for you. You could see. Let me see something. Can I see it better? Nope, it's supposed to be sewn on just like this. So you can see the lion there in the middle. It has 1941 written right across the center. Or is that 1841? Actually, 1841. Slashed right down the center. Look at just the detail, that bezeled edge, that hatch design in the background. This is what's on the back. If you know anything about this button, please let me know. It could be yours. I would really appreciate it. I have a couple of those, so I don't mind giving some up. And again, if you want some of our freebies, just make sure that you're a subscriber. Help us get to 1,000 or 2,225. At both points, when we hit that many subscribers, for both of the numbers I just gave you, we are going to be giving away lots of gifts. And yes, we pay the postage. And this one is absolutely beautiful with all of these beautiful daisy-like flowers on it. And notice how it has like a star design sort of in the center, and then the flowers go off from there. And then you have the little round dots, if you will. And of course a circular center. And each one on the edge is kind of in a heart, if you noticed. It's sort of like a heart shape. And then this is what the back looks like with that tire design. A little bit of a hallmarking. It's amazing what this company did. Like the number of dies they must have in their collection has to be stunning. And one of the things, someone did ask us a question, have we been to their factory? And we did discuss this in a very early video that before the virus hit. We were scheduled to visit the factory a couple of times if we wanted to, because they knew we would be shooting videos and doing research. And we were also going to go to the museum this year a couple times, which I've never been to. And suddenly, obviously, due to health events, the world had to shut down, which we completely understand and support. And so obviously we will be doing those trips, but just not now. And as soon as, those two locations are open, we will wait probably a few weeks and then we'll go. And this is the Brutalist mid-century modern design, which I discussed in an earlier video. This is another sort of example of that design. And you can see that it's kind of hard, it's kind of soft. You don't know if you want to pet it or run away from it. And then this is what the shank looks like on the back. So very unusual design. And let's see, we'll do this one. And you have to get one of these little tools. This is actually an antique pickle implement or utensil they would have used to pick up olives and things like that, small radishes if they had parties. And this one is circa 1800 sterling silver. And it works perfectly for just, if you want to hold up buttons like this and show them. So remember I showed you in a previous video, I had a version of this button in it was in a silver tone with black highlighting, and it was an error button. It had errors with it. This is what that button looks like in this brass finish. So once again, another button where they took the design and simply changed out the metals. This one you can maybe find in the small, because this is like the size of a quarter. Actually, this is definitely larger than a quarter. And they do have some in this design that were made smaller, about the size of an American dime. So sort of like I discussed with that Liz Claiborne insignia. They, came in different colors and shapes, but the designs were exactly the same. And here's one for those gentle folk that like something a little bit plainer. But so classy. Like, this is such a clean button. So shiny, super durable. Of course, it's hallmarked, you know, just a really nice, this is probably from that mid-century modern design period as well. Obviously not as brutalist as the others that I showed you. This is more of a classic in that design. Pretty, super shiny for all of my folks that like shiny things. I'm going to move that out of the way. I wonder if we will finish all these buttons in this video. If the video suddenly cuts off, please forgive me for that. But I am going to try to get all of these into this video. That might happen. So this is absolutely one of the most questionable buttons that I have. I don't know what's happening in this button, so if you have any point of reference, please leave comments down below. I will actually pick my favorite comment and highlight it in my next video. So this looks like a horse with a lion's head, or it's a very skinny lion, and I don't know what's in the, see if you look to the right, like something's between its legs, sort of, but then it's like standing on something that reminds me of a bent washboard, which obviously maybe that's part of a ship, I'm not sure, but we have looked at this button so many times and we are just like, what's going on? Is that a lira, the instrument, which I showed you a version and a button actually earlier? I don't know. Beautiful. I mean, look at the detail. Stunning. Even the framework around it, just so detailed. But we don't know what it is, if this was made for an organization. It has that wheel back design on the back. And their classic box shank. But if you know anything about this button, what it represents, what you think is going on in the picture, what animal you think that is, and what the animal is doing. Is that a big acorn? I don't know. The more times that we look at this, my husband and I, the more we come up with like different thoughts as to what we think is happening. And probably very few of those, if any, are correct. But hey, it's fun guessing anyway. So let's go to this one because this is a child to obviously the parent button that I showed you earlier in the other video that had an error in silver, as I told you, and I just showed you a version of this in this video. Here's a different version of that, just a little bit of a design difference and size. This one is about the size of a nickel, an American 5-cent piece. And here I have this beautiful button, which is just a very ornate flower. Like the detail in the petals is insane. You could see the watermark, if you will, and that beautiful classic shank. And then this one is one of my favorites as well. This beautiful knot, very Celtic or Scottish in design. Just love that. So, so pretty. That would make an amazing addition to any collection. And before the video runs out, I do want to thank all of you for tuning in for this series that I did on the Waterbury Button Company and all of the buttons that I have in my collection. As you can see, I have, I don't know how many, honestly. I stopped counting at like 90 something, I think. But I have a lot of different buttons from this company, and I wanted to make sure that you guys had one place that you could reference if you were looking to figure out what you have. You know, you buy buttons, you're you're like thinking, wow, these are so pretty, but I wonder who made them. How can I tell which company made them? What do they mean? What are they made out of? What's the history? And if you're looking for that history on the Waterbury Button Company, obviously you came to the right place, because as you can see, I have dozens upon dozens. Look at this pretty little baby button. It's so gorgeous. I just love the design of this, the texture of it. So pretty, so golden also, very like a rose gold almost. And rose gold is a mixture of gold and copper, just in case you didn't know that. And here we have this pretty button as well, with all the beautiful leaves in it, which I believe are maybe from an aspen tree, or maybe oak. I think it might be oak, because maybe those are acorns. Pretty sure that's oak. And there you can see the back. And that gorgeous texture and that beautiful frame that they put around it. Simply the best for you guys. And then here is another very detailed button with an eagle holding an anchor. So my thought is maybe this one is military. And then this is what the back looks like. Gorgeous. And this one, if you know anything about what this button is or what it means, we thought maybe it was Hermes, but we're not sure. It has the letters H-E in the center and two Gethans, I think they're called, on the left and right side. And obviously they're on top of this anchory looking thing, sort of, banner maybe. But it's definitely a Waterbury Button Company button, just like all the others. That's what the shank looks like. If you have any information about this button, please leave it down below. I would greatly appreciate it. And we also have, I will show you this one. This beautiful button with what appears to be flowers. Actually, they're like leaves downturned, and a crown, as you can see, is what they're sticking out of. So if you know anything about this button, please let me know. I would greatly appreciate it. Put it down in the comments. I can't wait to read the comments, you guys. I love reading the comments, and I will get back to you. And there's that shank. And then, oh my God, you guys, we have reached a precipice. We have done it. We are on the final Waterbury Button Company button, the last one in my collection. And this one is from the Civil War. I hope I don't drop it. And I purposely saved it as a final button because it's so old. And it came out of my military button collection, which I do have some Waterbury Button Company buttons in there. But I just wanted to show you this one because it's one of my oldest. And I just love the way this button is made. If you are lucky enough to find one exactly like this, which is going to be incredibly hard. I know suddenly everyone's like, oh, I have that one. Yeah, you probably have a version of it, but not this one. Very few survived. And it's just gorgeous. It's old, it's weathered, it's been used. You could just imagine the soldier running through the field, or maybe being at a ceremony, or just before they were deployed, having this on their uniform. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to this series. I really appreciate it. Please remember to subscribe, leave comments, as many as you want. As well as give us a thumbs up. It really does help YouTube to realize that these videos are important history, and to also, you know, allow people to find them easier when they're searching button subject matter in Google. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember that your health is your wealth, And without your health, you have absolutely nothing. So please take care of yourselves, help each other out, social distance, wear a mask, and I am sending you all virtual hugs, and be well.